Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit into my phone just for a second. When I send you home, I always send you home with foam, needles, okay? These are Ashford needles. This is just some Rambouillet core wool that I have and a bat of orange wool. When you get your fiber, if you find little burps like this in there, little bits of Furbies, just pull them out. This was a fleece that was sent to the mill specifically to come back for felting use. This isn't anything major, just a little bit of the dirt, the remainders. And if I were gonna spin this, I have a special brush that helps me actually card the tips out, but you can also pick them out really easily if it really bothers you. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my bat of wool and I'm gonna separate it in half. Now the thing about this is, if you hold too close, you're not gonna be able to pull it apart. The further apart you have it, the easier it is to pull it. Okay, this is gonna be true even if you're trying to take wisps out of the end for cosmetic work later on. Just take the tips and hold your hand far enough apart. I'm gonna set those to the side because I know I'm gonna need them. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this half, I'm gonna split it in half again. This is the easiest way to start your pumpkin. So I'm gonna take my core wool and I'm gonna kind of just move it around with my hands a little bit. If you're not familiar with the needle, this is a good time to practice your up and down motion, but don't do too much. And the reason why you don't wanna do too much is because if you do too much, you'll end up flattening the whole piece. But you can see deliberate up and down motions. I'm not twisting my wrist. The next step to making your pumpkin is to wrap. Don't worry about all these elements disappearing. We're gonna have more. I just happened to card my wool this way this morning. And I take it, and you see how when I fold it, what it looks like? Let's see if I can get that to the right angle there, sorry. And I'm only wearing this because I'm working with a needle project this morning that kept poking me. Oops. I'm gonna toss this right there, pick it up, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna find my center. Now right now, my piece measures, gosh, hold on, I have a tape measure here, about 5 inches wide. That's not gonna stay that way because the more you work it, the easier it's gonna, or the tighter it's gonna become, the easier it's gonna be to shape it. I don't know if that came out in English. I always recommend on your first pumpkin, just think about doing quadrants. So the needle itself creates this indentation. That's just the beginning. The more you work in that spot, the tighter it's going to be. So, and I have guests in the background, but I have to keep the show going. So you can see that I'm actually going now and I'm creating the next quadrant. And notice that my hand moves with my needle. So there you go, that's my version of slow motion. I'm gonna turn the piece. I'm gonna figure out where my quadrant is and I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Now you will do this on the other side as well. So once I define my lines, right here, I'll go back, I'm gonna do it one more time here just to get it good and strong. And I happen to be doing it in this direction for me and for you so that when I'm videoing you can kind of see my motions more clearly. I'm gonna turn it. Now I know, see where that indentation is? I know where to pick up. I'm gonna bring it back down to the center. And then we're gonna come back down this way. And this is just initial, because the next step is to create our eighths. So you can see just that little bit of action right there. Almost looks like this should be the top and not the bottom. The next step is to create your eighths. Okay, I'm back. So as you can see, I'm creating my eighth right there. Ouch, don't poke yourself. Don't do like me. I'm gonna go back in. And just remember that no pumpkin has to be perfect. Okay. All right. So you can see I've begun to take shape. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one, I'm going to go back in. I'm going to knock it down a little bit more. What I love about the felting process is if you look, just that action alone right there, look at how it just starts to push it inward. So the rule of thumb is if you're going to want it flat, you keep working from the top side. If you want it to be shapely, you want to turn it on its side and watch your fingers, don't be me, and keep going. Okay, you're going to keep going. Then once you feel like you've got a good fluff again, so I see this side needs to be worked on, you can go back in, lay it down flat, and continue to work on it. Now, you don't necessarily need to transition to your cosmetic work until you really have it down to where you want it to be. And not every piece is going to need it. So like this here has great definition. The only thing that's wrong with it is it's so dang loose that it's going to fall apart over time way too quickly. So you do have to tighten that up whether you like it or not. There's a method to my madness. And in so doing, it actually impacted this one on the right side. So let's say I want to add cosmetic work to it. And I want to stay in that tone, so I picked a section that actually has that brown on there. I'm going to take this and I'm going to tack it down. Then we're going to wrap it around. This one actually has a little bit of mohair in it. You can see the shine. A little bit of mohair. And then I talked about swooping when I was doing this. You take the wisps, gather them onto your needle, and push them down. And I'm going to go down into the crevices. Notice that I don't go into the center of the piece, I go down the crevices. And the more I do this, the better it gets. Okay, I'm going to take a time out and restart when we get to more promising portions of this video. Part 3 of the video is to show you the height. I have, because we do fabric stuff here as well, I always have a ruler taped down to one of my tables. It's actually measuring about 2 inches high, and the reason being is because I haven't put all my energy on top or on bottom. I continue to work from the sides as well, and by doing that, the wool can move a lot like clay. It tends to push itself outward, and if you're on the top, it's going to push itself downward. It's going to flatten just like clay would. The piece that I've attached is actually to help cover up this piece right here, and you'll have to forgive my dirty fingernails. I'm a farmer as well and a dyer, but I can see the core wool. And so the best way to counteract that is to take that little wisp that I had pulled off, and I take the needle and I tack it down, just enough, see right there. Just tack it down, wrap it around, and I don't want to hit that one because that one's okay. And then I bring it back around again onto this side. And I'm going to go ahead and tack it down. And here we go. So again, take your wisps. And the only reason I do that is, one, you never know which side was going to be your top or your bottom. I've already made my decision, but it does help you to grab them. You can comb it a little bit, but you just have to be aware of the fact that those tips could potentially break off. So once I tack it down there, I want it to fit in neatly here. So I go in here. There we go. And there we go. So some stuff will disappear once you put your wisp. Now the only thing that bothers people is you'll have where the folds met. You can actually play with that fiber rather than cover it up. Just kind of pull at it until it wisps. See how wispy that is? I keep pushing my poor foam away. It's wispy. Then you're just going to pull that up or pull it over, and you can work that back in again and tack that down. That's not going to go anywhere. Work your centers, your sides, and voila, it's gone. There we go. So it has disappeared, and notice that my pumpkin is not perfect. So the final step, and I'm gonna do a little segue, go get the fiber, bring it back, because obviously I'm trying to get this done for a Monday morning. And then it will be number 4, will be the finale, which is where we put the green fiber on. I'm gonna show you some quick things that I like to do, as well as using mohair locks. I'll be right back. For the 4th installment, which means nothing to you, but a little transition between video. I have some green. I have some psychedelic green and some weird other colors, but since we're a little new agey here anyway, here we go. Got some locks. These are mohair locks, and they're defined by their shine. They come from Angora goats, and they are fantastic for embellishment. So what I'll do is I'll try to tease them a little bit and then set them to the side for right now, and put my glasses back on. And I have no idea where that came from. Little burp. Oh, that's right, I went to an event. Go forgive me. And it sticks to everything. Okay, so I'm gonna tack down one spot, just one. I'm going to tack it down there. And then I'm gonna tack it down. I'm just basically following my outline. And I love fiber because of this. It is so cool. So I'm going to show you something, what happens when you do that. So I basically just picked a spot, tacked it down, and I'm only tacking it down literally right around dot to dot around the edges. But when you do that, you see that natural fold? Now, if you want to employ that into your design, you can actually create that additional twist. See what I'm doing with my hands is I'm just, and if you are into wet felting at all, you can also get your fingertips wet, and that'll help to hold it. I don't have any water. I didn't think about that until I started showing you, but by twisting it, you can see just that alone gives it more definition. And as you know, vines are filled with all kinds of funny indentations and scratches and all kinds of stuff for movement. Now, for our sake, what I'm doing, as you can see, is I'm tacking it down just on the outside, because I don't want to lose the fluffiness. If you go right down in the center, you're going to lose all of that. So what you want to do is just outside, and see outside, when I say outside, I'm literally right in there. I can see the bottom of that. I'm going to tack it down a little bit more, and then I'm going to continue to twist it, and I'm going to tack it down right there. Okay, so now I'm working directly just in the center. But what I love is this little indentation right there. See that, how that turns? And then you can go back with your needle gently and define that swirl a little bit more. Now I'm I'm all about a little bit of extra fluff, just for, it's kind of like the flame on the candle, that little poof thing that sticks up there. Since I went with a lighter green, let's see, for my tab, I'm going to take a little bit. This is seemingly scary at first, but it's kind of really basic. If you want the curls to pop out, find your center. Find the center of your mustache, your little mohair mustache. Now this is the ugly spot. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take that with my needle, and I'm going to tack that down in. And you've got to know, if you can't do this, you have not felted it. So I'm tacking it down in, and I'm letting the curls just puff out. You see? Now I have my embellishment. This is always a work in progress. I just noticed that I have some stuff here. So what do you do when you need to do a quick add-on? And Colin is here, so I'm going to stop for 1 second. You know that I work in a living and breathing environment here as a yarn shop. So this is on the home stretch, right? But I noticed that I have all this exposure here. I can still go back in, but the idea is now I know where my green ends and my orange begins. That's where I'm going to tack my orange. Don't worry about the wispies. You can tuck them in. And the green will not be affected as long as you don't touch the green. Just go right in the indentation. You can always go back and add more green on. But you can also put some wispies of mohair there as well. Tack it down, swirl it up, tack it down, and keep tacking it. And we're almost done. And here we go. So I'm all about a little bit of symmetry. Let's go ahead and where that kind of is actually the perfect spot to add the next one anyways, we'll go ahead and put it right there. But I don't want to lose my little wisp. You stay there. We're just going to do this. Then we're going to do this. I'm going to do this. And this. And there we go. That's a pumpkin. And I keep pushing that poor thing over. But there we go. That's all it takes is you start with your core wool, right? Clean it up a little bit. You're going to take, it's just a recap. Now this is a smaller pumpkin, so I told you can get quite a bit out of that fiber, whenever you get it from us at least. And actually, because I know how much I can stretch this, I'm going to take it even down smaller. Recap. Put your core wool in the center. Wrap, wrap, wrap and wrap. Shape into quadrants, then into eighths, right? Till you get something that looks where you have the definition here. Figure out what your top and bottom is going to be. Continue to shape when you need to embellish or to create smoother lines. Do you take your wisps and you pull them down and wrap them around? And the only other thing that you really need to remember is no, yes. All right, thank you for joining me and have a great day.